Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast here. We got Joe Rogan, we got Tucker Carlson, we got Benny Johnson, all talking to the same person. I'm going to just butcher this name for you guys real quick. What is it? Rod Blagojevich? Blagojevich. Okay? He's a governor, former governor, who actually got imprisoned. I think he did about 8 years, and he has a lot to say about Obama. And listen, he's not saying Obama is corrupt in what he's saying, but the story he's telling shows that there was seemingly a little bit of corruption. That's all I'll say about that. And then that's just the Joe Rogan clips I'm going to show you. The Tucker Carlson clips, Tucker has a different set of questions. So he's going to be talking about Michelle Obama possibly running. They're going to be talking about why Obama and how Obama is so rich. And, you know, he opens up a little more about Obama's character in those clips. And then I got a clip of Benny Johnson and him sitting down and talking. And he kind of breaks down how he knows that Obama is responsible for the coup that took out Joe Biden. Let's get into it with the Rogan clip first. Let's go.
Pressure at that time because they'd gotten a guy who was close to me and Obama, a guy by the name of Tony Rezko, who they probably convicted him of things that weren't crimes either. They were squeezing him to say things about me and Obama. He wouldn't do it. They put him into solitary confinement for 3 years to get him to invent crimes against us. He wouldn't do it. This guy's a stand-up guy. Obama sold him out, and he did more for Obama than he ever did for me. But I knew all of that. And so at the time when they began wiretapping my phones, which was late October 2008, everything I talked about doing with regard to the appointment of Obama's successor to the United States Senate, I felt it was very possible they were listening. How could they not? Because they were chasing me. They so much wanted to get me. And Obama and I both were in their crosshairs in the very beginning, but I think the politics of it changed as his political fortunes improved and he looked like he was going to be the next president. And these people, these U.S. attorneys, get appointed by the president. And these were Bush-appointed, Cheney-appointed prosecutors. And it's very unusual that the previous administration's prosecutors stay in office. When the new president comes in, they leave, as you see with Trump and the other parties, people come in. But these people stayed in, and when they arrested me, what they wanted me to do was to basically say that I was guilty of trying to sell a Senate seat, and I was trying to sell it to another guilty party, who was the guy who started the whole thing, by the name of Barack Obama, who wanted to buy that Senate seat, because that's where the whole thing began. It was Obama on election night. He sent an emissary to me to suggest a political deal because he wanted this woman named Valerie Jarrett to be appointed to his Senate seat. The governor appoints the senator.
Pause for a second. Hold that thought. Jamie, there's feedback. You hear that? You hear that vibe? That it was on the last podcast too.
Really?
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh.
Just ended.
All right.
What was that?
My mic cord is touching something.
Yep, that's it. Okay. All right, we're back. So Obama was. So how did he try to negotiate? Like when he wanted this person to take his Senate seat? Like what was said? How did it go down? How do things like that work?
You use third parties, emissaries,
so that you're
two
not.
people.
So he doesn't have to meet with you, so you can say Obama asked me. You have other people, so there's plausible deniability.
To some extent, that's part of it, of course. But there's other dynamics that also, it's just a little bit easier to kind of test the mood of the other person if you have a third party who both the people like or respect. In this particular case, it was a labor boss by the name of Tom Balanoff. He came up to me election night in November of 2008. That was the election you voted for Obama. You and I are both guilty of that. And I was there that night in Chicago. It was magical, historic. And it was great in the sense that finally America, crossed a significant barrier. A black person can be elected president of the United States. Every black child growing up can now look and say, one day maybe I can be that. There's the American dream and opportunity. So in that sense, it was a beautiful thing. So this Balanoff guy comes up to me and he says, Barack called me last night. He said I was pumping gas in this gas station in the South Loop area, downtown Chicago. Barack called me last night. He said it was around, he even told me the time, like around 6:30 or 7 at night. And he asked me to come to you. He would like you to appoint Valerie Jarrett as his successor to the Senate. He wanted me to know what you want. I wonder if I can come and see you so we can discuss this. I said, sure, call me tomorrow. Now, that's totally legal and appropriate. He's not suggesting anything illegal. Obama just wants to make a political deal. But what happened was they criminalized it against me. And
so they criminalized Barack Obama trying to force his pick for Senate seat and you accepting it.
Obama wasn't trying to force it. He was trying to make a deal to persuade me to do it.
Or what would you get out of that?
That's what we discussed for 6 weeks, and the FBI was talking about that. And we discussed all kinds of crazy ideas, a lot of good ideas. Spent 2 days talking about the possibility of appointing Oprah Winfrey.
What?
You might appreciate this. Yeah, I know. She's from Chicago. And
Do you remember when Trump won? There was like, it was NBC or one of these people tweeted out, "This is our president," and it was Oprah.
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, see how you
Yeah.
find that. One like a major network tweeted out, "This is our president."
Wow.
I was like,
Insiders who know how it works, that he was an emissary for Rahm Emanuel, who became Obama's chief of staff. He was a member of Congress. I had a pretty good relationship with him. He's all over the FBI tapes with me.
and so that Obama never said anything about it, but Rahm Emanuel said something to him.
Rahm Emanuel asked him to do it and instructed him to tell him that Barack himself had asked him to come.
This is just a theory.
A theory. And the theory is plausible in that what would be the motivation for Rahm to do that was that as the new chief of staff with Obama, and in the power game of politics, which is something he knows real well, and I know, is people want to be close to the king. And Valerie Jarrett was Michelle Obama's best friend, and she was a threat to the influence of Rahm and others. And if you get her kicked upstairs to the U.S. Senate, she won't be in Rahm's way to have more of a voice and more say in Obama, in the direction of Obama's administration. Now, this is a theory. It's a theory.
Interesting theory.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's day one like in prison?
I write about that in detail in my book. It's like chapter 3 or chapter 4.
Have you published this book yet?
No, it's
or
coming
just
out. It's going to come out, I hope, by spring. I hope I get it done. I'm almost done.
You have a publisher and everything?
So it's interesting, the politics of the publishing companies. I've pre-sold about over 8,000 already. I haven't even put it out for pre-sale yet. I'm about to do it. Blago something books, Rod Blagojevich books or something. We haven't done it yet, but I've pre-sold some to people, friends and others. About 8,000 of them already. So it's helped me be able to like self-publish and create my own little publishing company. And the reason I'm compelled to do it is because I've gone to some of the New York publishing houses, and they are so anti-Trump that if you say something nice about Trump, and he comes across really well in my book. I was on his show. He was great to me. He's a kind guy. I'll tell you stories about him if you want. He pulled me out of there. I love Donald Trump for a lot of reasons. Of course, because he gave my daughters their father back. So I write well about him. He comes across very well. Obama doesn't come across so good. He doesn't come across as evil, but he comes across a very selfish, very, calculating politician who missed an opportunity to be a great president, instead divided our country, and who's a snake and an ingrate, and who sold out his friend Tony Rezko, who bought him a lot. This guy bought him a lot next to a mansion that he bought after he was elected to the United States Senate. Obama's, at that time, only had $750,000 they could afford for a mansion. They wanted to buy the adjoining lot in this real upper-class neighborhood called Kenwood, Hyde Park neighborhood in Chicago, by Obama's library. And they couldn't afford the other lot, so he went to his friend Rezko. Obama did. And Rezko's a kind-hearted person, and he wants to help his friend Obama. So he pays list price, like $750,000 for the lot. The Obamas paid less for the lot with the improvement on it, the big mansion. Obama now is running for president. That comes out. He's got to fix his political problem. He goes to Rezko, and he says, I got to put a fence between the lot and the mansion. So I could explain to the media that it's your lot, not mine, right? And he asks for a wrought iron fence, not just any old fence, not a chain link fence. He wants a wrought iron fence because it matches the mansion. And then he hands Rezko a bill for $13,000 for the wrought iron fence. And then when Rezko suffers for 3 years in solitary confinement because he won't lie about Obama or me, he sends a letter to the federal sentencing judge saying they're squeezing him to say stuff about both of us. Makes the front page of the Chicago Tribune in August 2008. That he won't do it. They put him in solitary confinement for 3 years. For 3 years, he saw the sun 1 hour a day. And then when he got out of there, he tries to do a burp beep, and he faints because he's so skinny and so weak after 3 years of that. And this fucking Obama did nothing to help him.
Jesus.
It's unbelievable. So opposite of the kind of guy Trump is. I mean, I didn't do anything for Trump, and he helped me. He just thought something wrong. And I think he kind of liked me on Celebrity Apprentice. He liked the way I was fighting back. I know that. But he fired me on that show and freed me from prison. He's historic. He fired and freed the same guy. Even Lincoln didn't do that.
Man, I like this guy a lot. I always admit my biases. I like how he speaks about Trump, and there's a lot of that in this episode. We're gonna move on to the Tucker Carlson stuff, but I noticed with this guy, the way he talks about politics. We all know Kash Patel has a book called Government Gangsters, and we all know they operate like gangsters. But when he explains what's going on between him and Obama in this Senate seat, and Obama's sending a third party to feel out this guy, it sounds so mob-like. And again, he's not saying there's any type of corruption, but I feel like, this is just me, that whatever he would have got out of it, if he was willing to play ball and it did go the way it was supposed to go, could have gotten anything. You know what I mean? Like anything. I mean anything. I mean, think about everything we figured out. I mean, from money all the way up to like Epstein type. I just mean, allegedly, I don't know. This is just me. I'm just saying, this is what I think. I'm not saying that happened, but I feel like this guy could have got anything. No illegal intention. He's made that clear. I'm just saying, he also let this guy, his friend, Tony Rezko. I don't know if you guys know who that is. I admittedly do not. But the fact that Obama left this guy to kind of rot in jail is pretty crazy to me. And maybe I'm saying that name wrong, Rezko, but I would love to know more about him and what he has to say about Obama nowadays. I'm going to try and find that. I'm not seeing anything right now. Let's move on to the Tucker Carlson stuff right here. Now, some of this will overlap. Admittedly, some of it will overlap because it is, interviews of the same person. So he's going to have some of the same talking points, some of the same things to say. But I just wanted to play because Tucker Carlson has a different way of asking questions than Joe Rogan does. Tucker Carlson has a different focus when he does an interview. He's a journalist. Joe's a guy having a conversation. It's different. So I just want to play these clips. This first one's going to be going into Michelle Obama demanding a job for $300,000 and some more things about Obama's character. Let's get into it.
What role did Obama play? I think most people thought Obama was like a sign that America was getting healthier, healing from, past trauma and all that. He was a sign of hope. And then it just got super evil. But when did you realize that Obama was not what he seemed to be? And what role did he play in the disaster in your life?
He started the whole thing. My story, the book that I'm writing is a story that started with him on election night in 2008. It was magical, First black person, half black, and mom from Kansas, dad from Kenya, elected president. I've known him since 1995. We both came up together in politics, had good relationships. I was introduced to him by a guy by the name of Tony Rezko. I think that name is familiar to you, who's not nearly what the guy who's been portrayed. I mean, a businessman, very practical, extremely generous to Obama and good to Obama, helpful to both of us, raising money and things like that. And when I was elected governor, he would come to me with requests from Obama. And, a lot of it were appointments to high positions in state government. I was 2 years ahead of Obama in terms of going to the next level because I was the first Democrat governor elected in Illinois in 2002. And with this long and hard to pronounce last name, which was kind of cutting edge at the time, because for the most part, Illinois was electing guys with Anglo names or Irish names. We had Thompson, we had Edgar, and we had Ryan before me.
All those guys went to prison.
Well, Ryan did, yeah. Thompson put Governor Kerner in prison. That's another story. But and then I won.
It's like being a first lieutenant in Vietnam. The odds are bad.
Right, exactly. Right, the death rate. But I think in some respects, I should apologize to the American people because I might have had something to do with Obama's success because I think he saw that if I won, and I could win downstate, in the rural areas and, deep southern Illinois, which is the American South, a guy like me from Chicago, he could do it. And with a name you can't say, his name, he could do it. And 2 years later, he did. And he got the opportunity to give that speech in Boston, which was his William Jennings Bryant moment, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he electrified the crowd with that speech.
I was there.
Yeah, so was I. I turned to Bobby Rush, the congressman, former Black Panther. I said, Bobby, just think about that. As soon as you got done with that speech, you're the only guy who's ever beaten that guy in an election because Obama challenged him in 1998. But no, I thought Obama was all right, kind of cold and impersonal, but okay. And I was happy to be helpful. But he's one of the more selfish people in politics on a one-on-one level. And he's not pure like the driven snow in the sense of his ethics or morality. And, Tony Rezko is the guy who bought this lot next to Obama's home. And one of the things I write about in my book is that when I was governor first, and then Barack won in 2004, I was asked to make a phone call on behalf of Michelle Obama, because as soon as he won the Senate race, she wanted a job either at Northwestern University or the University of Chicago hospitals for $200,000 to $300,000 a year, the wife of the new senator. And I was asked, would you call? And
Was she specific about how much she wanted?
yeah. And
She was specific about salary?
Yeah. And I think Northwestern, we should double check this, but my recollection is good. I think Northwestern was willing to pay $200,000 to hire her. This is the wife of the new U.S. senator, and federal money for, Medicaid and Medicare, things like that. And then they got a better offer at the University of Chicago, which is in Hyde Park, where they're from, $300,000, and she ended up working there. And I'd called to help because you help people in politics, and the guy's wife wants a job. I'll make a phone call. He didn't get it. She didn't get it because of me, but it didn't hurt to have the governor call and say,
the second Obama gets elected, Michelle says, I want a job at one of two hospitals for between $200,000 and $300,000.
That's correct. Yeah. And she ended up working at the University of Chicago Hospital. I'm almost certain $300,000 a year. And so Rezko was really helpful to Obama. And so when the investigations against me heated up, it had to do with fundraising, and Tony was part of that. And I got to say this, Tony suffered. He spent 8 years in prison. I don't know whether those things that they said he did were even legal. Based on what they did to me, I'm not so sure they were illegal. It had nothing to do with my administration. They were business matters. But Obama just ran from him, did nothing to help him, and pretends like he never knew him. And yet the moment he became senator, she gets that $300,000 a year job with a little help, tiny little bit of help from me with a phone call. And then they buy this mansion in the Kenwood neighborhood, which is Hyde Park, Chicago. Beautiful old mansions where the family of Leopold and Loeb, they lived, right?
So a lot of sickos in that neighborhood going back 100 years.
Well, those two boys were. Yeah,
they
right.
were.
I mean, it's a bastion of liberal America there.
Dickie Loeb.
So what happened was the Obamas bought this mansion. Now he's the new senator. The first thing they do is buy a mansion. I guess he felt like I was getting a mansion because I was the governor. It wasn't mine, but I got the use of a 50,000 square foot governor's mansion. I guess they wanted their own. So they could only afford $750,000. So
So he's going to tell the exact same story. So I'm just going to flip over to the next clip here. Let's just get right into that. But just very interesting. Michelle pushing for a $300,000 job. This guy makes a call. The Obamas can only afford $750,000. Everything you've heard about these humble beginnings as he was in politics is just absolute nonsense. And that is what every community organizer type that learns from Saul Alinsky, that's what they all push. They all push that they're very humble beginnings. I'm just like you. He's nothing like you. And if Michelle runs, like everybody says, she is going to pull the same thing as Kamala and say, middle class and this and that. Please do not fall for it. They are nothing like you and I. Let's jump over to this next clip where they begin to talk about how Obama's so rich and Michelle Obama possibly running for president.
Talk about mainstream media. You're right. They've been so corrupted, so co-opted. They're corporate media.
Have you talked to Obama since you got out?
No. Mm-mm.
He never called you?
Oh, no. Oh, God, no.
What's he mad at you about? What'd you do wrong?
No, I don't think he's mad. He's just like, that guy can only hurt me. And,
of course.
He's living the good life. You think about Obama, he's close to being a billionaire. Those Obamas have monetized, like the Clintons did, their time in the Oval Office and in the White House. I think about Trump.
How did Obama get so rich?
Right. Well, I mean, he's got that whole establishment stuff that, overpay them for things. I think got a deal for like a book deal that was like $60 million or something in advance. And I don't know what the other things he's doing, but I think there's like documentaries he supposedly makes for Netflix. They paid him $100 million or something. But I think about that, and I know, them, and the moment they won for the Senate, and
they wanted a mansion first thing, and she wanted
a job. Yeah, there's other things about him that I've been told by Tony that I don't think I should say, just because, boy, they're terrible if true, and I tend to believe they are.
About his personal behavior,
about the desire to have upward mobility.
Yeah.
And, and where he was in the late 90s. And
he's a money worshiper.
Yeah. And I compare that and I think about Trump, who's made all that money and built it up in business and then decided to leave that good life to go and put himself through this in this rotten, nasty business. And he gets treated like that, where they're trying to literally destroy him and his family and all that wealth that he created. And the juxtaposition between that, where he wants to serve, and Obama, how they catapulted to that level after the presidency by just playing the inside game and being part of the establishment. It's a dramatic
Do you see,
difference.
when you keep hearing these whispers, a lot of them are just like nonsense on the internet, but then you do hear from Democrats, I don't know if it's true, but that Obama would like to see his wife run after Kamala Harris loses. Do you think there's any truth to any of that?
Yes. I think that's not unlikely. I don't know that she wants to do it, though. But
It doesn't seem like she does, but what do I know? I'm not.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. Sure, I can see that. I can see the possibility of that.
How much control does Obama have over the modern Democratic Party?
It's a good question. He's the most influential person in the Democratic Party today. But I would say that his influence wanes as the years go by. He's not as influential now as he was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. Times change, new people come in. I do think that the socialists, the Democrats, the AOC types are further left than Obama. And that's a tiger that he can't hold by the tail, that are kind of pushing him and others that way. I don't know that he's comfortable doing that. The thing about him is he's got a fundamental left-wing ideology, but he's a lot more practical than that. He's all about just winning for himself. And, I think about when he ran for president in 2008, he supported a border wall.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was practical politics at that time. And he was willing to ditch that right away. And so I would say as time goes by, his influence will continue to wane. But probably 4 years from now, he'll probably still be, God willing, Trump's the president, the most influential Democrat.
Boy, he was pretty cold with Joe Biden, who was always kind of running around pathetically bragging about how close he was to Obama, and they were buddies. And Obama just knifed him twice, one in 2016, supporting Hillary for the nomination, and again this summer with, leading the coup against him.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
It's Machiavelli.
Yeah.
He went to Harvard. He was probably reading law and reading The Prince, right? No, he's a cold-hearted, very Machiavellian. Look, it's a tough business, and I don't want to be a whiner or complainer and like, oh, woe was me, look what happened to me.
It is a tough business.
It's a rough business, and you're in a rough business like that. Harry Truman said, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to that. But within the spectrum of these practical people in a business of bullshitters and duplicitous phonies who almost embrace their hypocrisy as if it's like some sort of skill or talent that they have. In other words, Michael Jordan, his game got better as he got greater, right? He became a much better shooter. I'm from Chicago, 6 championships. We love Jordan, right? But Jordan wasn't as good a shooter when he first came out of college as he became. His game got better. And so you embrace that. He can go to the left a little bit better than he did when he first started. You embrace the improvement of his skills in sports. These politicians, what they do is like the Chuck Schumers of the world. They laugh at their duplicity and their hypocrisy. It isn't that they're being phony or fake. They feel good because they're getting away with it. Yeah. And the people are buying it, right?
Man, I like this guy. I gotta say, I like this guy. I wish I could pronounce his name. I'll call him Roddy B. That's what I'm gonna call him. Out of respect, sir, if you ever see this, Roddy B. But man, yeah, very interesting. You go down the list of keywords. We're gonna go over to the Benny Johnson clip in a second. He got Cole sold out his friend, backstabbing, cold, impersonal, selfish, winning for self. There's a lot of things describing him, and to touch on the whole, listen, he said he would do a third term. All right. And then Biden comes in, and Biden is Biden. I'm not going to say it's true. Okay. All right. Because I'm not that kind of guy. Yeah, I'm wearing this shirt. Yeah, I am. But I'm still a level-headed person, But if Michelle Obama gets in office, you would be hard-pressed to convince me that he's not pulling strings behind her. You would be fit. That would be a very tall mountain for you to climb in convincing me that that's not what's happening. She has 0 qualifications, less than Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris had none. That's crazy. Michael has 0. Michelle has 0 qualifications. Honest mistake I just made. Obama made that mistake. That was an honest mistake. I don't give into that conspiracy of Big Back Mike. I don't do that. No, I don't. He made that mistake on stage twice. I made it once. Don't YouTube, don't hold that against me. Obama's done it. Okay? And you're not taking down those videos. I'm just saying. All right, let's move on where I get myself in trouble here. I really want to find some info on Tony Rezko, but I can't find anything. He did 8 years. I would love to see what happened with that gentleman after he got out of jail, what he had to say. I'm probably spelling his name wrong. Tony Rezko, Obama. I would just love to hear what that guy has to say about Obama. Oh, there he is. Gets 10 years. Former Obama fundraiser gets 10-year sentence. That's the gentleman right there. Let me shrink this down just so you can at least see him. You know what? I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to pull this off here, and I'm going to do some typing and some looking into this guy while you guys are watching this next clip. Now we're getting into Rod talking about Obama and what he did to Biden. I got 2 clips of that. Let's start it.
Is this post that you put up about Barack Obama. And it went viral, right? It's got nearly 50,000 likes, 15,000 retweets, and 2.5 million views. It's a photo of you and Barack Obama, and you say that I've known Obama since 95. We come out of Chicago together. He knows how it works. He's behind the campaign to dump 15 million Dem primary votes and replace Biden. This was his choice. Classic Chicago Democrat machine politics, selection over election, the bosses over the people. You know, we've been saying that Kamala Harris is illegitimately installed and that this is one of the most anti-democratic things that have ever happened in the history of American politics. And pretty much a major black eye in the party of protecting democracy. It's quite an ironic turn. I wanted to give you just a chance to unpack this because there's been very much this cloak and dagger campaign against Biden, and you're saying that Obama ran it. Wow, what a backstab.
Well, yes, you know, they ought to call today's Democratic Party the undemocratic party because how they dumped Biden was right out of the back room. Classic old-time Chicago backroom politics. In the old days, the political bosses didn't look like Nancy Pelosi or Barack Obama. They were cigar chomping guys with pinky rings, and but they called the shots in the shadows of the back room in the old days. And then you had the advent of television, and then now social media and all these other things. And the thought that now today this party would do the same thing in full view, out in the open, in broad daylight, to essentially pull their incumbent president out of the race after they hoodwinked 15 million Democratic primary voters who voted for him, knowing full well that his cognitive issues were there then, just like they are now. And the only reason they did it was because they looked at the polling after that, the disastrous debate he had with President Trump. And so for political expediency, not for doing what's right for the people, they decided to get together in the back room and do what they did and how they did it and get Biden thrown off the ticket. Now what's going to happen, Benny, is they have a candidate who the more you see her, the more you don't like her. The more you see her, the more you realize she's just not up to the job. The more you see her, the more you realize she's a mile wide and about an inch thick.
Calling Kamala Harris, or any woman, but especially Kamala Harris, a mile wide and an inch thick is unintentionally hilarious. Look at Benny's face when he says it. Mile wide. Benny's like, I know what. You know what Benny's thinking, 100%. He's like, Willie Brown, I know. Montel Williams, I know. Ladies, if anyone calls you a mile wide, okay, and they're not talking about how fat you are, I don't condone violence, but you got to defend your honor. Don't let somebody say that about you. Let's move on to the next clip. I think I found a couple of videos on Tony Rezko, but let's do this first.
So this entire Kamala moment is completely manufactured by Obama, and this decision was made by Barack Obama. Do you have any insights, since you know the entire team, do you have any insights as to how they eventually manipulated Biden into stepping down?
Oh, yes, I do. They basically used the stick and the carrot, more stick than carrot. And behind the scenes, using third parties, dispatching them to Biden, to his wife, probably to his son, and maybe his brother, people close to him, top aides. They threatened him. I mean, they've known Biden for as long as they have. Obama knows him better than anybody else in politics, because in order to be his running mate, the Obama team had to vet him. So they've done all kinds of opposition research on Biden. Biden has not just a few skeletons in the closet, because he's been there for so long, since 1973. He's got many skeletons in many closets. They know it, and they went to him, and they told him stuff. And they basically said, if you don't get out, we're going to drop dimes on you. We're going to leak this to the media, that we've now been able to persuade that they think that you're no longer qualified to be president. 2 weeks before you were, but now you're not. We control them, and they work for us. And so they pressured him. And they probably said, look, but if you get out, here's certain things we'll do to make your landing soft. And so they probably offered them some carrot as well. This is how it's worked. This is how they do it. And you know what this reminds me a little bit? Obama in 2024 reminds me a little bit of Lyndon Johnson in 1968, when the Chicago convention was also held, when the Democratic convention was also held in Chicago. Johnson orchestrated Hubert Humphrey's nomination and did it from the back room. And the way Obama is operating is, and Pelosi, he's not alone. Obama's not doing this alone, but he's certainly the lead figure, the central figure in this. The way they're doing it is very reminiscent of the old school Lyndon Johnson ward boss politics that was so prominent in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. You thought it was over in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and now it's back in a more modern form. But either way, it's undemocratic, and the decisions are not being made by the working people of our country or the working people of the Democrat Party. They're being made by Obama and others from the back room.
That's incredible. Yes, not a single person has voted for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has received 0 votes, won 0 debates to be president, and had a campaign that failed spectacularly, didn't even make it to Iowa, came in 5th in her home state of California. She was selected, not elected, as you say. So I saw this and I thought, this is a little silly. You're saying they actually brought in the Oppo file, put it down on the desk in front of Biden, and said, it'd be a real shame if NBC News got this piece of information about your family. You're saying they did that?
Yes, I do. I say they did that several times, and whether they did it directly, through the use of third parties, and it wasn't just limited to NBC News. They share it with ABC, CBS, CNN, and all the others. Yes, of course, I believe that. What other reason would Biden have to step out? Right now, what he's just done, he's made himself a historic figure. He'll be remembered now for a guy who should have really not been president at all. He's admitted by his action that he's not qualified to be the president. He's not capable of handling the job. What other reason would Biden have to get out, except that he was pressured and they told him basically they were going to withdraw the support? Now, had Biden had the backbone of, let's say, a Donald Trump, and
imagine Biden had the backbone of Trump. That would actually be terrifying. You don't want someone like Biden to have the backbone of Trump. That would be absolutely terrifying. I got a couple of videos here, but none are really of Rezko or Rezko. I'm seeing different spellings here. If you actually speaking, nothing. It's like he did his time. Like, Rod here he's on Joe Rogan. He's on Tucker Carlson. He's going hard. He's writing a book. He's not playing around. But it seems like Tony just kind of disappeared afterwards. Now, he was very loyal to Obama, which, Rod is talking about him getting left out to dry in solitary confinement for 3 years, which is, I wouldn't even wish that on an enemy at all. That's a terrifying thing for a person to have to go through. But maybe he just stood tall on his loyalty to Obama and just never turned whatsoever. He got out, maybe got taken care of. I mean, like they were talking about in the Tucker Carlson clip, the Obamas have made quite a bit of money, and maybe they just took care of their friend, you know, or kept him as a friend in that respect. I don't know. But it's very interesting that you don't find anything of him speaking. Maybe he's just a stand-up guy through and through, you know. I know dudes who are stand-up guys, and a lot of times it's to their detriment, you know. It's honor, it's integrity. They don't want to really go against anything, so I get it. But yeah, let's just see what this video is. I haven't watched this, so I don't know anything about it. Let's just see what it's about really quick. No, it's one of those videos where they're playing music that's not theirs, and this is made 16 years ago. All right, so this video is a nothing burger. What about this one?
You were watching the last Democratic debate. You probably heard that barb from Hillary Clinton directed to Barack Obama. Just when the debate started to heat up, she mentioned Obama's relationship with a, quote, slumlord in Chicago. That man is Tony Rezko, currently in jail on federal charges unrelated to Obama. But he is part of something directly related to Obama, a real estate transaction back in 2005 that allowed Senator Obama to buy his current home in Chicago. And Rezko's criminal troubles are now bringing renewed scrutiny to that real estate deal. We get more from our senior investigative correspondent, Lisa Myers.
This is Senator Barack Obama's stately home in a pricey Chicago neighborhood. Inside the iron fence that surrounds his home is a vacant lot that lies at the heart of the controversy over Obama's relationship with his friend and campaign contributor, Tony Rezko. When Obama bought the home in 2005, the seller insisted that the house and the lot be sold at the same time. But Obama says he couldn't afford the lot. Here's the realtor for the seller talking about the Obamas.
They were not interested in the lot at any point. It wasn't even on the table for them.
That's where his longtime friend Rezko comes into the picture. In June 2005, Rezko's wife bought the lot for $625,000, full price. And on the same day, Obama bought his home for $1,650,000, $300,000 below asking price. He says because the house had been on the market for months. At the time, it had been widely reported that Rezko was under scrutiny in various investigations for possible political corruption. Rezko was later indicted for bribery and fraud, unrelated to the Obama sale.
What looks bad about the transaction?
Bribery, fraud, and they're labeling him an Obama fundraiser. Wow. Obama's basically a character from The Wire. Who would have thunk it, huh? And you know what? They talk about it in the Joe Rogan episode. They talk about, you know that Tucker episode with the guy who says that he knows Obama in a certain way that none of us know him. I'm not gonna go into the details, but he knows him in an X-rated way. We'll say that. And honestly, the more I hear, especially from Rod, how Rod's telling the way politics works, nothing sounds weird. Nothing seems off the table. So that story from Larry Sinclair talking about all sorts of wild things, it just seems, if somebody told me it was true 100%, I'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, listen to the story. Even just that little breakdown of that real estate thing. Like, listen, it's all on the up and up. Fine, okay? You know, there's layers. There's normal person layer. There's, tinfoil tuxedo layer. Or tinfoil tuxedo. That's only for special occasions. Tinfoil Speedo layer. There's both. So normal person realm, that was all on the up and up. Everything makes sense. But if you really look at it, and if you just look at it from the framework of like, these guys are gangsters. They're government gangsters. You're like, oh, this seems like somebody, even when you hear the regular story and then you hear Rod's version of it, you're like, oh, Rod's version makes way more sense. It just does. They're all just wrapped up in something. And then this Rezko guy, I don't know. It all seems pretty vile. I'll just say that. Allegedly vile. Okay. I don't want to end up like Sonny reading a legal note about the Obamas. That's for sure. Barack Obama has always been a straight man. He has never engaged in any activity with any man named Larry. I'd like to make that clear for everyone. His house was bought on the up and up, and he is an upstanding citizen, a former president that deserves your respect. I don't want to have to be doing that. Oh, man. But anyways, guys, this episode's solid. I like Rod a lot. I like everything that he's about. I like the fact that he's speaking the truth. I would love to know what happened with Rezko, but this is just more proof. You know, Joe Rogan needed to hear Obama actually lying on stage, and, you know, that kind of clicked something in for him. For me, it was just more of learning from my friend Hank, who you've seen on the podcast, who you'll see weekly on the podcast. You know, I just needed to learn a lot about rules for radicals and things of that nature. He taught me a lot, and then I started to see it. This is just more. This is just more evidence from someone who actually had a good relationship with the guy and can tell you all of these things of just how he was personally. Again, Rod's not saying that he did anything illegal. He's not saying Obama did anything illegal, you know, and neither am I. I'm just saying, it seems like some very politician stuff going on. And then you hear all the words that I went through, you know, the backstabbing, the coldness, the impersonal thing, you know, acting like you're one of us in just, you know, just humble beginnings. But in reality, it's like you've been well off forever. And there's more proof that even when he was younger, he actually wasn't even having any humble beginnings there as well. And same with Michelle. So it's just like, man, just so much more like Kamala than I realized until today. You know, I knew Kamala was doing an impression of him. I knew she was trying to position herself like she was the new Obama. But when you really even look back at their past, weird, vague past, you know, acting like they're from a middle-class family, but they're really not, you know, climbed politics in this weird, odd, dark way where you're like, oh, what happened? You did what with who? What? Pretty much the same person. Except when one of them got in front of a microphone, you were like, wow, this guy sounds great. And when the other got in front of a microphone, you were like, oh my God, no. Other than that, that's the only real difference, you know? I wouldn't be surprised if they were both Indian. Just making butter chicken right now together, you know? Just right under our noses. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Helps the channel tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.